Hey, what's up? Welcome to the first episode of 2025. And I'm not going to lie, I forgot how wavy that beat was that we bought when we first started the show. Like, I was just vibing right now because Brian put together a new intro for the show. And we bought that beef off someone that you actually are familiar with in the New York City area.
Yes, Ghost Dave. Ghost Dave is a producer. You probably heard some of his beats on like Peter Rosenberg project, produced with some Griselda on it as well. Like he's done some really cool stuff. And if you love like just classic East Coast hip hop, he does that.
So shout out to Ghost Dave because that was actual fire. I forgot because it's been a minute since I listened to it longer
Like the
than 10
whole thing.
seconds. You know what I mean? So that was pretty dope. By the way, if you like the show, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. If you have already done that, thank you so much. You can follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO. You can also find us on the audio side, wherever you get your shows, podcasts. You can find us there. Got a couple of minutes, leave a rate and review because it helps the channel grow. Gervonta Davis goes off on Turk. Brian, should I be counting to 8?
I'm getting up. I'm
Okay.
1000% getting up for this. um, Gervonta Davis is just gonna go at Turk for a minute. Now, I think this could be a long conversation. Where the whole point of this is to keep it tight. But basically, if you don't know, Gervonta Davis just went off on Turk again. He seemed annoyed or pissed off either about everyone being at the Ring Magazine Awards or the fact that he wasn't invited or whatever. But I also think there's some merit to what he was saying. It's just kind of like the messenger isn't perfect, but he basically is going at everybody for just sort of taking the bag from Turkey and just selling themselves. And one of the points he makes is interesting that I want to sort of focus on here is he said, dudes can't sell, which is why they're going out there to make all this money. And Terrence Crawford has taken exception to some of the things he said, and they argued about who makes more money than who. But I think this is really interesting, and I think Gervonta Davis is sort of the poster child for PBC. So this is basically PBC versus the Saudi Empire, for lack of a better way. But this is a feud in boxing I'm very much interested in, especially if they're never going to do business with each other, but they might have to at some point. We'll see.
I'm about to get up because I'm not staying down for this one. Shout out to Tank. I don't like the back and forth between him and Bud because I feel like they're both kings of the sport, and I hate it when two people are fighting over who got more money. That's the corniest thing ever, especially with everything going on in the world with the fires and everything like that that happened in LA. But that's a different topic. I'm rocking with Tank in this because it's true. There's only really 2 people that really sell pay-per-views. Canelo Alvarez and Tank Davis. Jake Paul, right? We could throw him in there.
Well.
Those 3 are the only 3 guys that actually sell pay-per-views. Tank doesn't have to leave the States to go and sell a fight. He doesn't have to do it. And at the same time, you know, he'll have a fight in DC. He's done fights in LA. Like, I think people
Brooklyn,
have to realize
Vegas.
He can do it anywhere. It's Tank Davis. And he's one of the most electrifying fighters in the game right now. And people love seeing him. He's must watch pay-per-view, even if you don't pay for it. You know, some people don't. Let's just say it. Let's keep it real here. You looking for that link is what I'm trying to say. Right? When Tank is fighting, like, you're like, oh my God, I gotta find the link.
And he still does numbers.
That's the thing. It's Tank Davis, so he can talk this talk. And I respect him for saying this because I feel at the same time, a lot of people are just out here kissing a turkey's booty, right? Like, that's what they're doing.
Holding his hand too. Yeah, doing a lot.
I don't know what's going on.
He's throwing money at people, you know?
Okay. Yeah. And like, listen, like, I understand the game, and for a lot of these guys, there's not a boxing union. You want to make as much money as you can. Like, there's different layers to it. So I'm not going to hate on what they're doing. And Turk has given us the fights that we want. Like, I can't complain as a boxing fan. But at the same time, there's other layers to it as well that are political. And not a lot of people are talking about that aspect of it. And that's being overshadowed. But Tank, I'm not going to stay long on this. I'm rocking with him. Shout out on Tank. Shout out to Tank for standing up for what he believes in. And at the same time, he can talk that talk. If you disagree with either of us, make sure to drop some comments below. Bryan, I think you.
I'm sure there will be people who do it because everybody loves, like, Turk's approval rating in boxing is very, very high right now because
People are
people,
loving him.
yeah, there are people who just care about, hey, I just want to see the fights and don't really care how we get there. And it's like, okay, turkey emoji, which is fucking hilarious. It's bringing us close competitive stack cards. Tank is giving us mismatches. If Tank is such a POV star,
I think he meant pay-per-view, like
no, I
PP.
know you don't want Tank to be a POV star. That's a totally different, like, that's dark web shit.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know. I'm like so innocent. I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I still don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Don't
I
worry
have
about
no
it.
idea.
Don't worry about it. The audience is a lot more dudes. They'll understand what I'm talking about.
I was like, point of view. I'm like, that's Instagram, nerd. But
No, no.
I don't know what you're talking about. Tell me after when we're off air. What? Just saying.
If Tank is such a PPV star, I got you, nerd. I got you. Why has this fight been postponed twice? I assume the Lamont Rose Jr. I don't think him being or not being a pay-per-view star is I just can't is tied to why the fight's been postponed. I don't think that's a correlation, but I also don't think Tank is giving mismatches, quote unquote. Like, PBC is PBC. PBC is promoting him. I think it's in PBC and in Team Tank's best interest to protect Tank the brand. And I think regardless of how he's managed, which we both want Tank to fight Shakur Stevenson. We both want Tank to fight Vasily Lomachenko.
Yes.
Like, it's frustrating that Tank hasn't had fights with either guy. He's had Leo Santa Cruz on his resume. He's got Isaac Cruz. He's got, I like Hector Luis Garcia more than most people. He got Jose Pedraza at a time where Jose Pedraza was undefeated. There are names that I'm forgetting about right now, but like, Tank's got some dudes on his resume. I agree that he should have a better one. But at the same time, we say all that, and it's like, he probably beat Shakur Stevenson and Vasily Lomachenko, which is why this particularly is potentially frustrating. And I wouldn't, like, this isn't an apples to apples comparison because, like, Turk is an actual, I don't know if promoter, figurehead, whatever, but like, he's not a boxer. It's different, right? Like, Tank isn't booking himself. And with Turk, it just depends on what you care about, is how I'll word it. It depends on what you care about. Is it like, do you care about only getting the fights and just getting the fights and that's it? Or do you care about all of the things that go into how business is being run in boxing?
Let's get to some more comments. Let's get to this one by Marlon2631. Tank is a 30-year-old prospect. Devin and Shakur Teo have better legacies. Here's the thing.
Not Shakur.
Here's the thing that I do want to say is that
Not
him
Teo,
and Loma were in negotiations. That was reported by many people. And Loma was the one that said he was going to take time off. It wasn't Tank. So why should Tank get any blame for that? He didn't back out of it. They were in negotiations. Loma said, yo, I'm going to take some time off. So he shouldn't be blamed for that. Also, I think people kind of sleep on Tank's resume. There are some good names on there, in my opinion. And listen, Frank Martin, rising star. He fought him, right? Like, that's, I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, who's Frank Martin? No, a lot of people were talking about Frank Martin, dude. Like, that's not like an easy fight. Tank made it look like that. But Frank Martin was a rising star where we were talking about him in that division. Hector Luis Garcia, very tough fight. Ryan Garcia, at the time, I know there was a, weight clause and all that stuff, but that's a tough fight too. And
it's aged pretty well, actually, considering what happened to Devin Haney.
Yes. So as much as people want to hate on Tank's resume, like, take a look at those names. They're not tomato cans. Like, he's not fighting someone that like has like 50 losses. Like, these are guys that are coming up that Tank is fighting. And listen, it's a little bit Mayweather-ish, but at the same time, everyone's talking about legacies and stuff like that. Do we know what Tank actually wants? Because let's also remember, Tank is from B-More and he's made a bunch of money and he could sail off into the sunset if he wanted to. But
which he's hinting at doing after the end of this year, which I don't believe that either. But we'll
I
see.
don't either. But here's the thing: it's like everyone has their own reason for doing something, right? Like someone we don't know. I'm not saying this because I don't know Tank personally, but some people want to fight for legacies and belts. Some guys don't. Some guys want to make bread, and and that's about it. Like this happens in basketball all the time, right? Like guys will sign a big check. Like I'm gonna be honest here. Like Melo did it. Melo could have gone and won a ring, but he was like,
Carmelo Anthony.
I'm gonna go sign with New York and sign the biggest deal, and I'm probably not gonna win a championship. And it's not
I mean,
necessarily
to
all
be
his fault.
fair, if they fucking
They made the
managed it,
playoffs and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, if
Yeah,
they
like
managed it better, you know what I
they
mean?
could
Like
have.
they could
They
have.
definitely could have.
Yeah,
But
but
at the same
they were
time,
the Knicks at the time, like
yeah.
the other version of the Knicks, not the current day version of the Knicks.
But
Although
he had an opportunity. This is not about basketball to go play with the Bulls in Chicago, right? And that was rumored. And D Rose at the time was like, "Yo, we don't need Melo." Also rumored that LeBron invited him to Miami to join them. And Melo was like, "Yo, I'm gonna sign with New York." Like Melo could have won a ring. He could have joined a super team and done it. But he was like, "I'm gonna play for New York." And this is a different conversation.
yeah, because I'm like getting my Knicks like up on behalf of the Knicks argument ready. Not,
Yeah.
but not the Knicks like as an organization. Like that's an anti thing because the
Hey,
organization.
I'm
Is
the
bad.
biggest. You know me, Brian. I'm a Knicks fan, so I wasn't mad at him doing that. I love that
Marlon's
Melo came back.
Marlon 2631 says if Tank retires tomorrow, is he a Hall of Famer? Yeah, they're gonna put him in.
100%.
Yeah, they're gonna put him in. Now, I
Nerd,
mean,
nerd, nerd. You're a friend of the show. Okay, you're my homie, but I don't like this comment. What is the difference between Jake Paul and Tank's careers? Like, let's not do
Tank
that.
didn't lose to Tommy fucking Fury. Like
Tank isn't fighting like
you
former
got like you got
basketball
you
players and MMA players. I mean MMA fighters. Like
you got
Tank's
me
not doing
defending
that.
Tank in a way like I'm not even like, oh, a Tank isn't like all time. So I'm not even that dude. Like I'm not even a PBC, like I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. But I'm saying like I'm not gonna say like Tank has accomplished absolutely nothing. Like I understand people want him to fight Shakur Stevenson, for example, and Shakur Stevenson has one big win on his resume. And we're saying Shakur Stevenson has a better resume than Gervonta Davis. Like that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Shakur Stevenson has one big win on his resume. That's Oscar Valdez. He also lost world titles on the scale because he couldn't make 130 anymore against Hobbs and Cosesal. Like, I don't know what we're doing there. And honestly, like, if Shakur fought, this is the key thing to me. This is the frustrating point to me. Like, if Shakur and Tank fought, and that's the fight, by the way, that's the fight that more than any other fight in boxing, that's the fight I want to see the most. I want to see Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson. But if they fought, like, you can pick Shakur Stevenson to win that fight. I'm not doing that convincingly because you could say what you want about like the skill, the defense, and all these different things, but Tank himself actually made an interesting point. Like all that boxing shit goes out the window if you get hit hard enough. And it's like Gervonta Davis is not just he's not Deontay Wilder where it's
Tank is
power, it's
skilled.
power.
He's
Like
skilled, y'all.
like he always gets his guy. You know what I mean? And the only times he doesn't, it seemingly, is if he gets injured during a fight. Like if you think Shakur Stevenson will beat Gervonta Davis in a fight, then okay. But I mean, ultimately, I want them to make that fight. And the part about, again, going back to Turk and the part about fighters selling, like Shakur Stevenson was getting booed in his hometown because of how boring his fights were. That would never happen to Gervonta Davis. Like Gervonta Davis pay-per-views are events. Like those are things, like people that people tune into.
Can I
You
say
know what I
one thing?
mean? Like
Also?
that, like a legit crowd, like people, like they get up for Gervonta Davis. Like I've
Yo,
been to some of these Gervonta Davis fights.
let me say one thing about Gervonta Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson. Go into a room with a group of women and ask if they know who Tank is. I tell you, they'll know who the hell Tank
That's
Davis
part
is.
of it.
Ask them who Shakur Stevenson is. I will go into a room full of my girlfriends and ask them who Tank is. They will all know who Tank is because he's knocking out everybody and he's out there on social media. Meanwhile, if I asked them who Shakur Stevenson was, they would not know. I'm sorry.
That dude is
And
a star.
they would not know. And that's just the truth of it. And I know this because like when any of my girlfriends mention Tank, I'm like, how do you know Tank? You don't watch boxing.
Right.
And like, you know what I mean? So like there's a different level of superstardom. And I think Shakur Stevenson, I'll say this. I've said this before on this show. I think he can go undefeated. And I think that he'll beat everybody. That's how good he is. That's how good I think Shakur is. I don't think him and Tank is going to happen. I just don't.
That's disappointing if it doesn't. But at the same time, like
but if Tank Loma happens, I think that's a fight that is going to possibly happen. I'm okay with that, because then I think people will shut up about Tank having people on his resume, and at the same time, I think Loma has a good chance too. Like, I'm not just cutting out Loma in that fight. I think Loma makes everything difficult. I think Loma would lose. I don't know, actually. Like,
if you want to bet
think
on
that's a tough
Loma,
fight.
if you want to bet on Loma in that fight, I will gladly take your money. Like,
I'm not betting on Loma on that fight. I say he makes it an interesting fight, like how he did against Devin Haney.
Yeah, but
that's what I'm saying.
This is this is the part with Tank where I get frustrated, and it's more so his management, because it's like, yo, you can throw him in there against these dudes because he might beat all of them. People just want to see it. You know what I mean? Like, I think to say he wouldn't beat them would be a little bit disingenuous. Like, Tank and Lomachenko gets announced tomorrow, and you see the odds for that. Tank is the favorite, like, easily. He's going to be the favorite for that fight. If he fights Shakur Stevenson, he's probably going to be the favorite for that fight. And if he were to fight Devin Haney somehow, he'll be the favorite for that fight. Like, he would be. He just would be. You know, it's a combination of boxing skill and the power that he has. Like, he has skill. So, but you know, we went long on that. But ultimately, yeah, I hope Tank and Shakur happens. That's the fight that I want to see more than any other fight in boxing right now. But I'm pessimistic that it happens in 2025 or maybe at all.
I don't think it happens at all. I'm going to be honest with you. I just don't think that fight happens. I think it's more likely we get Loma and Tank. Let us know in the comments below, though, what you think about the Tank conversation as well.
But he makes an interesting point. Like, does Shakur need Turk to sell?
Yeah.
He's not even on the main event of this card.
I do think
he's not even the co-main event of this card.
I think someone who gains the most from pairing up with Tank is Shakur. Just gonna be honest with you. Like he's a great fighter.
I'll tell you what, another thing about Tank, like against Lomachenko, against Shakur Stevenson, and against Devin Haney, he's the A side. He would be the A side for all those fights.
He is.
He would be.
Yeah, he definitely would be. I wonder what it would be for. I wonder what it would be for Tank and Shakur.
People could deny it if they want, but like Tank is the A side for all those fights.
Oh, 100%. No, he's the A side, but I do think the line between him and Shakur would be a lot closer.
Sure. But Shakur got booed in his hometown and then ran to Saudi Arabia to get the bread.
Because he needs to.
Tank doesn't.
Drop your comments below, guys. This is not the mandatory featuring Tank. Marlon 2631. Casuals don't appreciate technicians in the ring. If it's not a knockout, it's boring. You know what, Marlon? I agree. I agree. But at the same time, like, I think sometimes in boxing, and I will say this, because you want casuals, like let's be serious here. That helps the sport grow, right? And as much as we appreciate technicians and we know how good Shakur is, we also know that we need casuals for things to grow, and they want knockouts. They want good fights. Like, that's what makes people watch fights. Also, and it's a part of the game.
Also, there's great boxing, and then there's landing 65 punches in a 12-round fight against Edwin De Los Santos. Like, and while Edwin De Los Santos threw 316 and landed 40, threw over 100 more punches than Shakur Stevenson in that fight. Like, that was historically low output. Like, Shakur Stevenson this is the frustrating thing about Shakur Stevenson. He's an excellent boxer, excellent boxer who can take more chances if you want to, who can mow through basically anyone that he's been in the ring with so far, and hasn't quite done that to the way that satisfies people, casuals and diehards alike. Like, there are a lot of diehard fans who appreciate good technical boxing who are frustrated watching him and get bored watching him because he'll just kind of like, he'll just be there and he'll win a round throwing 9-10 punches.
Okay, so nerd, like, we're pals, but I'm gonna say, like, talk about this comment and then bounce. Tank pound for pound number one because women know him. That's not the point that I was trying to make. The point that I was trying to make is that a lot of women that I know do not watch boxing. Now, when you're a superstar, you're actually known for, like, no apparent reason. Like, maybe some people don't know you that well, but you'll know them.
You transcend your sport.
And so Tank transcends his sport, whereas other boxers in the sport don't have the same amount of social media presence, or they're not a pay-per-view fighter. Everyone knows who Canelo Alvarez is, even if you don't watch the sport. You know Canelo is one of the greatest boxers of this generation. You know who Tank is. And I think Bud is also transcending. You know who Ryan Garcia is. You know who Jake Paul is. A lot of my girlfriends do not watch boxing. They were watching Jake Paul and Mike Tyson and was like, yo, that woman fight was really, really good. And it was fucking Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor too. Like this is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And listen, a lot of my girlfriends don't watch boxing at all, but they sure were down to watch Tank and Ryan Garcia. They love that fight. But are they going to sit down and watch Regis Prograis and Oscar Duarte? No, they're not going to do that. Like this is like
shows that we listen to will talk about Tank. Like that, don't talk about boxing ever. They'll talk about Tank when he has a fight coming.
First take will have Tank on.
Yes.
For First Take will have Tank on, but they're not going to cover Regis's comeback. Like this is what I'm trying to explain. They're not going to cover a casual Shakur Stevenson fight, even though he's fighting Flo Schofield, and that's a great fight.
Is it though?
I think it is, because you know how high I am on Floyd. Like as a young guy, like I think he's a good fighter. Once again, I'm proving that I am not a casual, because I think Flo Schofield has a good future, and I think there's excitement.
Me too.
I think Shakur beats him. Yeah, exactly. But I think there's also like the rise of that, right? Because like look at when Canelo fought Mayweather, something similar like that. Like
Tank
they're both young, except
Frank
for
Martin.
I wouldn't put Schofield in the same.
No,
like conversation as Canelo at that time. You
can
get what I'm trying to say, right? I'm just trying to make like a comparison. All I know is Marlon 2631. Let's leave with this because it's fire. Another dream match we need is Inoue versus Tank.
No one's ever said Inoue versus Shakur.
Not once. Not once.
No, I've heard Inoue versus Loma. I don't think Inoue is fighting any of those guys, by the way. Like,
no, because he
has to get to 126 first. Yeah,
I think he caps out. You know, and I would like to see it. It's a dream fight, but we'll see what happens.
But Inoue versus Bam Rodriguez.
Yes.
That's what I want in the future. Nakatani first, though.
Yeah, that has to happen. And that has to happen in Japan.
Inoue Nakatani at the Tokyo Dome. Oh my God. Inoue fights, by the way, next week. So we will, segueing into next episode, Inoue will be a topic of discussion, although probably not as extensive as we'd like, because he now has another replacement opponent, because Sam Goodman can't stop cutting himself. And
getting cut, not cutting himself.
Getting cut. Don't want to be too. Yeah. All right, anyway,
anyways, we about to cut up out of here. Thank you guys so much for rocking with the show this early in the morning. First show of 2025. Also, thank you for all your comments. You know, you keep it respectful. We're not always going to agree, but you guys are all family every time you drop a comment and join the show. So thank you so much for rocking with us this morning. If you're watching this after, make sure to follow us on our social media channels. We're at the Mandatory TKO. Hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you have, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us for the first show of 2025. Bryan, I always let you have the final word, so I'll let you have the final words of the first show of 2025. I can't talk at this point.
Tank versus Shakur, please, 2025 at preferably Madison Square Garden or Barclays Center.